tens of millions of deaths and enormous destruction. Even one thermonuclear weapon on a large city would be destructive on an almost unimaginable and unprecedented scale. World War II killed 50 million people, but it didn't do it in one day.
In 1963, Peter Watkins, a British filmmaker, made a drama documentary to show what a nuclear war would mean.
9:16 a.m. A single megaton nuclear missile overshoots Manston Airfield in Kent and airbursts 6 miles from this position. At this distance, the heat wave is sufficient to cause melting of the upturned eyeball, third-degree burning of the skin, and ignition of furniture. 12 seconds later, the shock front arrives. The blast wave from a thermonuclear explosion has been likened to an enormous door slamming in the depths of hell.
The film was called The War Game. The BBC banned it. It wasn't seen on television for 20 years.
There was, for a period of a couple of years, at least a year, a strong effort to persuade the American public that it was worth investing in and practicing civil defense. That campaign fell flat. The public wasn't very interested. I think the public concluded that if a thermonuclear war were to take place, civil defense, although it might preserve some lives, would not preserve most lives, and what came afterwards would have made life not worth living.
Whether you're sitting in your desk next to the window or standing in the elevator shaft, it wouldn't be of any great significance if the bomb were dropped in this area within a radius of 25 miles.
I assume you're supposed to go to a shelter, but in a city like New York, there's not much chance that a person would survive if there was an attack or something.
In the case of a real attack, nobody would know what to do, I'm quite sure.
Officially, the Russians took civil defense more seriously, but the reality was not encouraging.
When people began to realize how dangerous these weapons were, they used to joke that if a nuclear bomb was dropped nearby, all they'd be left to do was to cover yourself with a white bedsheet and crawl to the cemetery. If you could make it to the cemetery, that is.
The leaders were guided by the idea that, as there might not be a nuclear war, why spend money which we were so short of? On the other hand, if there was a war, civil defense would not help. It was a very sensible, purely pragmatic Russian attitude.
Even short of total war, deterrence carried its own dangers. In 1966, over the coast of Spain, a B-52 was due to attempt a routine refueling mid-air from a tanker. In the village of Palomares, Simo Ortez was setting out for the day's fishing.
I was fishing opposite Villaricos, and the planes were flying overhead. We always used to watch the planes. There were two B-52s refueling, and the ones at the back must have brushed against each other, and the planes exploded.
I remember all this fire in the air and pieces of aeroplane falling to the ground. I remember all the neighbors running to the place where the smoke came from. We thought that what had fallen there was still burning.
As the planes broke up, 4 hydrogen bombs were scattered over the coast. 3 hit the ground. 1 was lost at sea.
I saw it very clearly. The bomb fell into the sea very close to me. And then I saw how much interest the Americans showed. The whole Sixth Fleet came. There were 5,000 soldiers living on land in tents. Generals, colonels, so many important people from North America.
The American fleet searched the ocean for the missing bomb. Those on dry land had different problems. When the bombs hit the ground, safety devices prevented a thermonuclear explosion. But the conventional high explosives used to trigger a nuclear blast had gone off, scattering radioactive plutonium.
They started doing medical checkups here in the town with a Geiger counter. Some people had to throw away their clothes because they were contaminated. The houses were washed down with detergent or water. At no stage did the Americans tell us anything. People were scared because no one knew what was happening. All you knew was that you were forbidden to eat things, that you couldn't go out on the street, you couldn't touch anything. Everything but everything was permanently prohibited.
Over 4,500 barrels of contaminated soil were shipped back to the United States for burial. At sea, the search continued for the missing bomb. The Spanish feared that the Mediterranean was contaminated. American ambassador Biddle Duke went swimming for the cameras.
Ambassador, can you detect any radioactivity in the water? if this is radioactivity, I love it.
80 days after the accident, an American mini-submarine, Alvin, found the missing bomb intact. The Pentagon called a lost nuclear bomb a broken arrow. Palomares was the 14th broken arrow since 1950. More were to come. The number of Soviet accidents is still unknown. The Russian military were unconvinced by McNamara's notion of assured destruction. They saw it as their first duty to protect their homeland. They worked to develop anti-ballistic missiles, ABMs, which could destroy American missiles in flight.
В свое время это был щит и меч. Был танк и было противотанковое орудие. Был самолет.
First there used to be a sword and then a shield.
И вот показалось, что
then a tank and anti-tank gun.
Неуязвимым средством, что уровень.
Now it turned out that a missile was not invulnerable. Science and technology was developing so fast, it had become possible to fight the most dangerous, most invincible weapons.
To the United States, Russia's ABMs came as a blow. It was a terrible paradox. By building a defensive system, Russia had put the delicate nuclear balance at risk.
We thought of it as an umbrella. Would an umbrella harm anybody? If it rains, you open it up. That was how we saw the ABM system. It was an umbrella to protect our population against a possible missile strike.
In terms of MAD, if you believe in mutually assured destruction, anything that interferes with with both sides. See, it's mutual assured destruction. It must be mutual, and it must be assured. So anything on either side that it would interfere with both sides, either or both sides, capability to kill 20 to 50% of the population of the other side is, by definition, destabilizing.
The introduction of ABMs destabilized MAD, the balance of terror. We were both so afraid of nuclear armaments. We knew that you wouldn't strike and we wouldn't strike. But now, if one side could counter the other's ability to respond, then they had the advantage.
America, too, had been developing an ABM system, but McNamara was reluctant to authorize production. The system was easy to beat, and the sums just didn't add up.
The ratio of cost to the defender as against the offense was very unfavorable in that it would cost, say, like $5 to the defense to counter every dollar that the